We. On a picnic every weekend when we were in Bursa. A. Were going. B. Went. C. Have gone. D. Have been going. E. Go. Although the police, he was able to prove that he when the crime was committed. A. Suspected, was working. B. Suspect, worked. C. Has suspected, had worked. D. Have been suspecting, had been working. E. Were suspecting, is working. Jessie. Such strange clothes that we were all taken aback. It took us some time to get over the shock. A. Was wearing. B. Has worn. C. Is wearing. D. Had been wearing. E. Has been wearing. Generally speaking, I film reviews because I like to be open-minded when I go to the cinema. A. Am not reading. B. Don't read. C. Haven't read. D. Haven't been reading. E. Didn't read. The old clock in the center of the city. In 1980 and, since, A. Stops, wasn't working. B. Has stopped, isn't working. C. Was stopping, doesn't work. D. Has stopped, wasn't working. E. Stopped, hasn't worked. Someone next door, heavy metal music all night long. I didn't get a wink of sleep. A. Were playing. B. Has played. C. Is playing. D. Played. E. Has been playing. I think your energy by sweeping up those leaves, stop it. The wind will blow more down. A. Wasted. B. Waste. C. Are wasting. D. Were wasting. E. Have wasted. There is considerable concern about her whereabouts because she, for several days, A. Is missing. B. Missed. C. Has been missing. D. Was missing. E. Misses. I am afraid I didn't hear the doorbell when you. I. In the garden at the time. A. Rang, was working. B. Had rung, worked. C. Was ringing, have been working. D. Are ringing, work. E. Have rung, worked. When did you first notice that your car A. Was going. B. Has gone. C. Went. D. Had gone. E. Has been going. After Lisa graduated from university, she for a job in a bank and there ever since. A. Applied, is working. B. Has applied, worked. C. Applies, has worked. D. Applied, has been working. E. Was applying, worked. When I first met Emily, in this city for 20 years. A. Was living. B. Lived. C. Had been living. D. Has lived. E. Has been living. Before you mentioned him, I of that novelist. A. Hadn't ever heard. B. Wasn't hearing. C. Haven't ever heard. D. Didn't ever hear. E. Don't ever hear. The concert was last week but they still down the posters from the notice boards. A. Haven't taken. B. Wasn't taking. C. Didn't take. D. Hadn't taken. E. Hadn't been taking. Tell me what you, of my new car. A. Are thinking. B. Had thought. C. Were thinking. D. Think. E. Thought. Even though he denied what he earlier, he, to join us, A. Said, has accepted. B. Has said, accepted. C. Has said, had accepted. D. Has been saying, has accepted. E. Had said, accepted. After I along the beach, I a bath and I my breakfast. A. Run, had, had. B. Ran, had. C. Had run, have had. D. Had run, had. E. Ran, have had. A. Jim was very clever as a child. B. Was he really? A. Oh, yes. By the time he was 5, he to read and write. A. Learned. B. Had learned. C. Was learning. D. Has learned. E. Have been learning.
When Mrs. Crashen at the airport yesterday morning, she realized that her passport at home, A. Had arrived, has forgotten. B. Arrived, had forgotten. C. Arrives, forgot. D. Was arriving, forgot. E. Has arrived, has forgotten. The police say that the man, home in the dark when he, down a hill, A. Had walked, fell. B. Was walking, fell. C. Walked, fell. D. Has walked, had fallen. E. Has been walking, had fallen. When I returned home from holiday, I found that my parents, a lot of changes in the house. A. Was making. B. Have made. C. Have been making. D. Had made. E. Made. The teacher. Me in the exam just as I. My last sentence. A. Has interrupted, wrote. B. Interrupted, was writing. C. Was interrupting, have been writing. D. Had interrupted, have written. E. Is interrupting, had written. Newspapers yesterday said that Michael Keller, a 3-year contract. A. Had signed. B. Would have signed. C. Was singing. D. Has signed. E. Is signing. There. A decrease in the number of applications since the report on environmental pollution. In the newspaper. A. Was/appeared. B. Had been, has appeared. C. Has been, appeared. D. Is, appeared. E. Is, was appearing. Don't forget to post your scores in the comments section. Thanks for watching.